Hello and welcome everyone to another edition to the Curt Williams Body and Soul Show. We are coming to you for Mother's Day. Thank you for coming. Let the show begin.
If you should awaken, I will be there when you wake from your lovely
As I said, this is a very special Mother's Day edition. As you know, I am a spiritualist, metaphysician, hermeticist, and all kinds of other things. However, the spiritual nature of who and what I am will be tested right here. This is, of course, our special Mother's Day edition. So to all the mothers, grateful to have you here. We love you as a species, as what you stand for and what you are. This aspect will be tested with me. My mother passed away yesterday, and we shall see if I'm going to, how I truly feel about this whole thing where you live forever and you never pass away, because it sure feels like it, but I know, I'm so confident in what I'm teaching here, that people do not die. They transition, and they transition into a situation where there's no such thing as time. Past, present, and future the same. So when you are reunited with loved ones or whoever, it will seem like no time at all has passed by. Now, I'm going to miss my mother, or I'm going to hurt, but I'm not going to miss her in a physical sense, because I live on the spiritual side. Everything I do is on the spiritual side. I consider everything else the kind of fake side or the educational side of things. Now, there's this thing called the Akashic Records. The Akashic Records is supposed to be the record of your life for you to review when you pass, to see how you did. However, that's not quite accurate. The Akashic Records is not for you to review, it's for your life to be reviewed so that someone else could sort of persuade your spirit to help them in theirs in their next life. For example, people that come into your life, it's not random, it's all planned. It's planned by a spiritual being with an Akashic record that says, in agreement with you, with your spirit, we're going to need these things happen to you in this existence to gain the kind of growth that you want to have at this particular one. If your parents were hard on you, it's because you picked tough parents to have. If parents seem like they have a certain amount of quirks, well, you picked them because of those quirks. You felt that the quirks that they had were the quirks that you needed to help you develop. Imagine a parent that didn't do anything for you but told you they love you every day. It would do nothing for you but spoil you. My mother is beautiful and she's wonderful and has always been. And But you know, she had to be a little tough because I was a hard-headed kid sometimes. You know, and my grandmother was tough on me too, but she loved me more than anything in the world. But she had to be hard. When I say hard, I mean hard in a Church of God in Christ kind of way. She was the mother of the church, and one day I thought I was gonna never forget. I thought I was gonna clown in the church, and she did a very loving thing to me. I'll never forget it. You know, she looked back at me one time, and I kind of saw her look at me, and I looked at her like, "Yeah, I see you looking," you know. And I was about 7 years old or something, and so she got up, and I was like, "Okay, she's coming over here." And in front of the whole church, she gently walked over, and everybody saw her get up, and they were all looking. And I really commend. I like to say, if anybody who was there on the day and remembers this, I'd like to thank you for your understanding and your behavior that day. Because what happened next? Nobody said anything to me. Everybody got quiet, quiet and very respectful, and I didn't get teased about it. Nobody, you know, smirked, laughed. But what she did was she gently walked up the aisle and walked over and stood in front of me in front of the pew and gently stuck her hand out like this and put it underneath my chin. And she started slapping me like, "Ba-da-da-da-da-da." And I was going, "Blah, blah, 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 blah." And I mean, but she did it with love. She did it with love. And after she was finished, I was sitting there with my eyes bucked. And she just gently walked back and the service continued. Well, that's called tough love. And I love my grandmother for that. That was a very touching moment. And I believe that literally. But I understand that I picked her because I was a hard-headed boy and I needed something like that. I remember when I was in kindergarten, and I went to a pretty rough elementary school, and you used to have to fight every day at this particular school, and sometimes I would pick the fight sometimes. Well, this time I think I didn't necessarily pick the fight, but you know, yeah. So, but I'm walking down from school with three brothers that happened to be triplets. I remember their names was Dwight, Dwayne, and Dewan, and I had an argument with the one Dwight. He was the rough one of the three at the time, and let me tell you something. Don't ever think that you can fight triplets one-on-one and get away with it. I learned right then that you don't fight. I had the nerve to think I was going to fight a triplet. Well, it's very difficult to keep an eye on three individuals. I don't care who you are. Even Bruce Lee would back up to a wall so nobody could sneak up behind me. But I thought I was tough. And I don't know how long the fight lasted. I don't really know, because all I remember is that when I looked up, everybody was gone. And I realized, oh, I'm over here and my books are over there. And I picked up my books and I gathered them, and I, like, where'd everybody go? Huh. Then I remember I had been in a fight. And I said, oh, scared dudes, they must have ran off. There you go, I scared them off. So I'm walking at home, and all of a sudden a car pulls up behind me. He says, kid, your head is bleeding. I said, uh-huh. And he comes over, and one of the triplets had done what he should have done if somebody was messing with his brother. Snuck up behind me, hit me in the head with a rock. I still have a little scar. But I'm proud of that scar because it taught me what happens if you mess with three dudes, or especially triplets. you might want to negotiate your way out of that struggle on the next time. They didn't give me any mercy either. One day, about 30 years later, I was talking to a young lady, and she said she knew those triplets. And her girlfriend, her roommate, it was actually her roommate's boyfriend. And he was on the phone at the time, and I told him about it. I said, hey man, you remember Boot Heel in Pasadena? And we had a fight and the blah blah. The dude told me, yeah, and I'll come over there and finish the job. I said, no, brother, that's all right. I'm good. You did a fine job the first time. Anyway, all these things happen to you in your life to help you to develop into something more than what you were. You pick your parents, you pick your siblings, you pick all these things, and you travel in circles. You travel in circles. Sometimes you might be the bad guy, and the other times they might be, and it switches back and forth. And let me give you a message. See, there's going to be a lot of talk about, I'm going to talk about race to an extent, just not much, but just to an extent. Because racial issues, black, white, yellow, whatever, is an issue, but not from a spiritual standpoint. As a spiritualist, there is no such thing as a spirit of a color. Your avatar has a color, your avatar has an ethnicity, but your spirit does not have an ethnicity. You're not a black spirit or a white spirit, and be careful with that one. Because those races that you hate the most, someday you may be the host. I say that carefully. If you're a white person that doesn't like black people, chances are, I guarantee you will be one day. If you're like Dr. Omar, who is, I think he believes he's doing something great, and more power to him. He's a very articulate brother, a powerful brother in all of this. And he's a Pan-African, and he believes he's just here for black people. Well, I'm the same way, but I'm here for spirits. Spirits, we're all the same thing. I'll let you fight that fight, brother. But at the same time, I think we'd be better served by elevating the spirituality of all people. Now today, like I said, happy Mother's Day to everyone. Today is also a special day because it's a turning point in my book. My book was very complicated to write because I really wanted to get the attention of the scientific community. So I had to articulate the book that way. But I didn't want to be a scientific book. So I had to bring in other things that would tone it down a little bit so other people could understand it. And for my granddaughter, I wanted there to be colorful chapters that she too could appreciate. And so that's why we have dinosaurs and Mother Natures and everything. And I knew I would constantly ask, well, do you believe in God? Well, my first 12 chapters were about God and the creation of mankind. No, and the creation of the universe. We'll get into the creation of mankind next. However, this is the point where the book takes a turn. It gets very serious at this particular time. I'm going to introduce you to a family that you've never heard of, but they did exist. This family is mentioned in the Bible, but in a way that you've never heard. In particular, it's about a father and 3 sons, and a grandson, actually. These individuals biblically were spoken of as the ELOHIMS of the book of Genesis. I was talking to a friend of mine who had said she had never heard of the word Elohim, and she's a really believer in biblical studies, and she studies hard. I said, well, There's no way you could not know what an Elohim is of the book of Genesis. She said she had never heard it. So once she started looking for this, she found that there were Elohims all over the Bible. Now, if you understand the book of Genesis, the way it's explained, it's the Elohims in the book of Genesis that created mankind in their image. So we're talking about a very big difference between an Elohim and the creator of the universe. So far in this series, we've talked about Mother Nature and the creator of the universe and archangels and quotidian angels. Quotidian angels are common angels. Archangels were the first ones that were created before the Big Bang. And then the Big Bang came, which was the birth of the universe. Now we're going to, I look at this like we're going to jump into the deep. We're going to take religion into the deep waters now of true historical events. This part of the book explains exactly who the Elohims in the book of Genesis were. Exactly who they were, exactly who their parents were, and their parents, and their parents. It is a lineage of Elohims. The Elohims were flesh and blood breathing, warm-blooded, so-called angels. The only thing angelic about them was where they came from. They came from up above, but, anything up there was called the heavens back then. Everything was called the heavens. If it came down from up there, it was the heavens. Well, these particular Elohims came down in vessels. So this, I would like to introduce the serious, getting more serious aspect of the book. The first of these Elohims was an Elohim called ALALU. In fact, there is a face on Mars next to two pyramids. They don't like to let you see this because they reference this face on Mars as some kind of anomaly. But you have a face on Mars that's right next to a pyramid. How in the hell did that get there? Well, this book explains how that gets there, because the face on Mars is the face of ALALU. Introducing ALALU.
Chapter 14, ALALU'S Flight.
A million years had passed, the oceans were calm, and the animals had regained their footing. Mother Nature was indeed happy, and God was elated any time the mother was joyful. This would be the calm before the storm. The Lord God patiently waited for the next and very important chapter in the existence of the beloved planets in the galaxy of the Milky Way. It all began when a controversy was afoot in the heavens. This time, however, it was not a planet that would again come to call, but simply an Elohim from the heavens that would set off the next series of extraordinary and true historical events. He believed that he was the royal successor to the kingdom of heaven, but was in fact an ordinary outlaw from that kingdom and was forever forbidden to return. The name of this Elohim was ALALU, and he began to speak.
It's been weeks now, soaring out here alone in heaven, not knowing what part of heaven this is, or to what part of heaven I am going, not knowing when or where or what I shall become. The choices I made, I hope, were the right ones. To die in heaven or to die in the kingdom was the dilemma to be faced, and I am sure I am the only one to venture this far into heaven. No one knows where I'm going, and I know I could never go back to the place where I was to be king or God or something. The conflict that led me to this place was absolute. This journey, or my death, I believe they were the only two options bestowed upon my existence. We as Elohims have no knowledge of any other species of humanoids existing in heaven. Greed, power, and conflicting impulses all conspiring within me, frustrating my brain as my blood boiled, torturing me with anger and rage, and about my mother's legacy and all the love I yet have for her. And so now, I'm here alone, the sounds of my chariot's engines my only companion. I move ever forward, away from the center of the system, of which my home dwells on the outer rim. The obligation must then be mine to bestow a name upon this heaven. I see on long-range scanners a grouping of planets with satellites circling, and a bright star centered amidst them. Many lords in the heavens say that there is life out here, somewhere out here, though I have seen no indication of such. No indication on these celestial bodies to alert me of life of any kind. Look there, a sensor alert, a light indicating something is from my scouting vessel ahead in the distance. The vessel is sending back information. A list of several bodies around this bright star where life, perhaps primordial in nature, could be a remote possibility. There is one very large planet, and one with rings with debris scattered. Beautiful rings around its equatorial center, perhaps from some nearby stellar calamity. And there, a very hot planet. I see there in the distance one very cold planet, all with moons, glorious moons. I shall land on the hot planet just to see if there is life that would not destroy or be threatened by me. Weapons I have many, yet I'd rather not use them at first contact. A horrible way to introduce my fragile being. My scout drone surveys the surface in search of something, anything threatening or to be cautious or fearful of. For hours, and then days, I sit and wait. Anything to indicate the existence of life here on this very hot place, where the days are short and the nights are too short, yet very lonely. So lonely am I, as I begin to realize that this could indeed be the place that I shall live or die. For 1 year, I have made this place my home away from home, surviving on nutrition that I have brought from Nibiru. But now, I am running low. Nothing seems to grow here, and if I stay out here, I will surely die. My scout has been gone for days now, in search of something, anything that could bring hope to this, my precarious journey. Suddenly, over the horizon, my drone appears. What information could it have for me? Perhaps life somewhere, somehow. As my drone lands before me, all systems seem to be full of information from all over this system. I analyze logs of information and I find something extraordinary. In several gaseous intake testing tubulars, oxygen, carbon, methane and hydrogen has been detected. All these found in one place. As I map the location where these elements were found, I see on long scanners a planet covered in ice. How can a planet completely covered in ice contain methane in its atmosphere? Methane would indicate life, big, large, and exhaling life. Extraordinary life. Life that has been ingesting food and then releasing it. Perhaps life was below the ice. Either way, I must go there and search for whatever may await me. At full speed, I could arrive there in 20 days, and my scout in 10.
So the drone went ahead to seek suitable landing sites.
As I approached the location, something quite strange seems to have taken place there. From high above, I could see life covering the planet completely. However, the ice seems to be evaporating quite rapidly. This was extraordinary. Not only was the ice melting, but it was melting as if the planet was a temperature of above 93.33 degrees Celsius. Although my scanning instruments see a temperature of less than 15 degrees Celsius. And the atmosphere was rapidly clearing as well. At this rate, the planet will be 65% ice-free in a matter of days. I found a dry spot on a mountain top and sat down while my drones continued to survey. After the thaw, what I found was remarkable. There were giant beasts frozen in time as they lay, as if they were suspended in time. This must be the reason for the extreme levels of methane gas in the atmosphere. Here, there was a planet full of food and water, yet life was not to be seen, as if the planet was quickly frozen and was about to restart itself from the beginning. For 10 days, I explored the planet's surface, when suddenly, my readings began to alert me of something. The something that alerted me was quite incredible and unbelievable. Could this be possible? A planet that contains just what my home world needed?
On the planet Nibiru, the atmosphere was being destroyed by radiation from the lack of volcanic activity, and also abuse. Rapid acceleration of technologies also played a part. For thousands of years, space vessels traveled the universe in search of the element gold. Gold particles could repair the gaps in the planet's atmosphere and restore it to its original state. And just by chance, ALALU found a planet full of it. Perhaps the only planet of its kind right here in this faraway place, and by chance. On this, the third planet from the sun, the element gold readings were off the spectrum of his instrumentation. ALALU knew that if he could bring back to Nibiru this extraordinary discovery of gold, more gold than anyone could ever have dreamed, they could restore the atmosphere on Nibiru, and he would be welcomed back as a hero to all without shame or penalty. In order for this to work, he knew he would need a sample of the element to see its purity and its concentration. But he had no equipment to achieve this.
Perhaps they would need only my words and the hope of truth to place me back in their graces.
So he readied for the journey home that would take about 30 days, with only the fuel he had saved in reserve tanks just in case there were miracles to be had.
Thank you everyone for coming to the show. Please be back. And for Mother's Day, all you mothers, happy Mother's Day to you. And for mine, I will always love you, and I'll see you in a minute. Bye-bye.
Of you, before you know, you seem so long ago. When I had you close to me, and my world was close to you, close to you. Oh, I will forever love you.